Unleash the deep state. I know it's not as cool as Unleash the Kraken, but you get the idea. That's what the Democrat establishment wants right now. That's what they're pushing for. That's what they're hoping for with all of this. You're starting to see it all happen. Wow, it's so easy, no matter how humiliated you were in the past, no matter how clear it is that a government employee was engaged in the most grotesque politicization of his or her job, even if they violated sacred principles of their own institution, even if they humiliated the bureaucracy with their actions. The deep state squad is getting plenty of airtime these days. No problem there at all. Easy to get on TV to be a deep stater and attack Trump. And we're just seeing the beginning of this last effort. Let's start with, there's so many of them. Let's start with Peter Strzok. Peter Strzok, here he is. Here's what he says. How do we get them to start talking about Russia again? Is part of the plan. How do we get the libs an opportunity to call out Russia? Because that's what they want to do. They want to talk about Russia because even though you might say, Buck, hold on a second, Buck. I don't know why I got kind of text in there, but hold on, Buck. No, but really, even if you would say, haven't we proven that this is all nonsense? Haven't we proven that this is false? This is strange. This is absurd. They would come back and say, what do you mean, that whole special counsel thing? They just didn't find all the facts, man. There's just more out there. Almost like a conspiracy theory that can never be proven wrong. It was never even, and I don't know why this didn't catch on more. This was my initial theory about Russia collusion. Even if Trump was willing to be that underhanded, which I do not believe, but just from a pure perspective of risk management for Trump and those around him, it's the dumbest idea in the world. You're going to work with the Russians. We're told the Russians wanted Trump to win. What would they get? What would Trump have ever gained from working with the Russians on this? And then think of the risk that he's taking. And at any point, the Russians can drop that. It's such a dumb theory. You have to be a blinkered moron to think that this, but the country is full of people. There are losers without a thing to add to public discourse. They're not intelligent. They're not funny. They're not, who have, hundreds of thousands of social media followers now because they did the whole Russia collusion thing. Oh, I'm going to get to the bottom of the Russia collusion. Oh, he's a Russian asset. And then it was just feeding into this mania. Man, these people should have really just followed the Kardashians or something instead, not tried to stretch their little brains so far. Unbelievable. Now Russia's coming back, even though we've all been talking about this, even though we've had all these discussions. Now Russia's coming back. Here's Peter Strzok. Meet the Press, the gold standard of political journalism, right? Meet the Press. Here's Peter Strzok talking about how, well, I'll let Peter Strzok say it. Play 17.
Look, I think it is clear. I believed at the time in 2016, and I continue to believe, that Donald Trump is compromised by the Russians. And when I say that, I mean that they hold leverage over him that makes him incapable of placing the national interest, the national security ahead of his own. That takes a variety of forms. I worked counterintelligence for over 20 years, and I recruited spies during that time, and I defended against those people who were being recruited in our government. One of the largest ways that people in foreign governments gain leverage, and certainly in the case of the president, is through financial entanglements. And I think when you take a look at the Trump financial enterprise, particularly its relationship with Russian monies and potentially those related to organized crime and other elements, that those interactions have placed him in a position where the Russians have leverage over him and are able to influence his actions.
Based on what? Top counterintelligence guy Peter Strzok. The FBI and CIA, people are never going to think of them the same way. And they shouldn't. Not after these morons have gotten through with lying to the public. Okay, there are financial entanglements. Where? And also, Trump's a billionaire. How much of a financial entanglement do we really think we're going to have here? How much of a financial entanglement are we really talking about? All right? That's something that we need to know. Because they've also told us that based on the emoluments clause, they've also told us that President Trump has had his foreign policy influenced by diplomats buying cheeseburgers and having martinis at the Trump Hotel. I'm not kidding. Oh, well, they're influencing him. Yeah, the 60 different countries that have had diplomats go have a cheeseburger or eat the delicious bacon at the Trump Hotel, they're buying his foreign policy, $10 at a time. Again, this is idiocy. I mean, intelligent people can't believe it. Washington Post writes editorials on this. What kind of leverage do they think they have? Meaning, what kind of leverage do they think the Russians have against Trump? What would it be? Oh, they're going to promise him a hotel? The guy's already a billionaire. He's built a global brand now that people will remember, not just for decades, probably for centuries to come. I mean, Trump is now in the history books. And the Russians have leverage. Remember when it was the P tape? What we're supposed to forget. The FBI believed that. The CIA believed that. At least the deep state libs who worked there did. They thought that there really was a Trump video where he's getting a golden shower from prostitutes. I mean, how much dumber is it going to get? They've learned nothing, though, you see. They can't allow themselves. It's like somebody who's a religious zealot can't ever answer any questions about their beliefs because even the smallest break in that mental armor will bring the whole thing crumbling down, right? Even the smallest chip in the wall of their belief can bring the whole thing down. That's what people with weak faith, people that don't have real arguments and understanding for their beliefs. They're very sensitive about it. It's true of the deep staters. So you have Strzok, and then you've got Vindman, the president. Oh, here we go. People. This guy. The whole whistleblower thing was this loser who's like, I'm more important than Trump. I should be making a foreign policy on Ukraine. I was going to be Ukraine's defense minister. You hear about that story? Oh, yeah. Play 11.
The president suggested you are a never-Trumper. Are you a never-Trumper?
I joined this administration. I joined the president's team. I joined this administration well into this administration with the hopes of being able to do my job, with the hopes of being able to advance U.S. national security interests. I could say that I am now a never-Trumper. I was not a never-Trumper before. I was nonpartisan. I would be, regardless of what administration, I would just try to do the best I could to advance national security interests. But I think as the president's attacked and politicized me directly, in taking a very sober view of where this president is taking this country, the divisions, the catering to our adversaries, the undermining of national security interests, that I am absolutely a never-Trumper.
Oh, now he's a never-Trumper because the president was mean to him. But he wasn't a never-Trumper when he decided to try to undermine the sitting president of the United States with this nonsense over the Ukraine phone call. Right? And the whistleblower. Remember Adam Schiff? No, you cannot talk. You cannot try to find that the identity of the whistleblower is sacred. It's sacred. A total construct. Total fraud, by the way. No reason we can't know who the whistleblower is. Trying to take down a president of the United States, and it basically was Vindman all along. Yes, I swear. But the libs never. I say they never learn, but it's really just they never change. They never change their mind. They never change their attacks. They never change on any of this. They're impossible. Rather, they're incapable of self-correction. A very important tool in life. Can you self-correct? Can you be honest with yourself about who you are, what you're doing, what you think, what you say? And is that the best version of you? Is that the most truthful version of you? Liberals, again, if you pull one brick out of the wall of their unearned self-esteem, their unearned virtue, they're worried that the whole thing comes tumbling down. That's why they have to shut themselves off from discourse. That's why they're not willing to have a real exchange of ideas. And they create all of these endless echo chambers for themselves. and then try to shut down the few places where conservatives have real reach in the media for ideas that half the country shares, but only about 10% of the media is willing to share. Oh, isn't that interesting? But the Never Trumpers out there, you're going to see all of them. It's going to be like the best of Never Trumpers. I mean, the compilation series that nobody wants, that nobody would buy. Now that's what I call Never Trump. That's what's going to be. Remember those CDs? That's what's going to be coming your way. New from #1 New York Times bestselling author Vince Flynn, Total Power, a Mitch Rapp novel by Kyle Mills. In this next thriller in the best-selling Mitch Rapp series, it's a race against the clock when ISIS takes out the entire U.S. power grid and throws the country into utter chaos. Imagine the hysteria, the anxiety, the fear if the U.S. was in darkness. This story is going to keep you on the edge of your seat while taking you through a destructive cyber attack on our nation, a cyber 9/11, making you ask yourself, will it be lights out for America, or can our top assassin save us from plunging into permanent darkness? The Real Book Spy calls Total Power a serious contender for Best Book of the Year. If you're a fan of suspense and thrillers, this is the book for you. Take back the power, Total Power. The new Mitch Rapp thriller from Vince Flynn, available in bookstores everywhere in hardcover, ebook, and audio. Pick up your copy today.
Yeah, I'm not doing it for political reasons. I want the vaccine fast. If this were like I call it the O'Biden, if this were the O'Biden administration, you wouldn't have a vaccine for years because they would have taken 2 or 3 years. I've speeded up the process with the FDA. They've been great. Dr. Hahn has been great, the head of the FDA. Alex Azar has been fantastic. It's been incredible what we've done because we're going to have a vaccine in a matter of weeks. It could be 4 weeks, it could be 8 weeks, but we're going to have it. We're getting very good results, and it's really looking good. And they're great companies: Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna. We have a lot of great companies. It's not just one, and they're all doing really well. It's going to be soon. Now, will it be before the election? It could be, in terms of we have something, and we'll start delivering it immediately upon getting it. But we're very close to getting the vaccine, and that's something I look forward to.
We've gone from, thanks to the lockdown libs, we've gone from lockdown until vaccine is crazy. We'd never do that to, okay, we're locking down until a vaccine. They didn't really tell us that. They just decided we're doing it. To now, so it looks like we're going to have to lock down until long after we have a vaccine. And for all this, I just want to say thanks, Fauci and company, because this is the biggest self-inflicted policy disaster of any nation in generations. So we're going to look back on this because there's no benefit to so much of what we've done. There's just a lot of people who are afraid, who are being used, who are refusing to have open conversations and open debate about what's really best for us to do under the situation. So, yeah, that's where we are. And now they're trying to say things about the vaccine that, look, I understand some of you. I understand some of you have concerns about the bodies governing us when it comes to this right now. The CDC messed up the testing originally, right? The FDA. But I also know that vaccine testing like this is, if anything, too cautious. And they know that the eyes of the whole country are going to be on this at every stage. There are multiple vaccines in trial right now, and looking like they're going to work. But put aside for a second whether you're even going to get this vaccine or not yourself. I mean, I'm probably going to get it based on what I read about it, so that I just have a greater degree of not worrying about infecting my parents, let's say. Even though I think we're through the pandemic, 90% through the pandemic at this point, I'm not expecting a major second wave this winter, and we'll see. But then again, everyone's been wrong a lot on this whole thing. But I'm pointing to what the Democrat narrative around this is right now. Because for months, let's just be clear, for months they have been saying, oh, let's listen to the experts. But now for obvious political purposes, they are turning around and telling us, I don't know about the experts on this one. Bill Gates, the billionaire who funds the IHME that had those horrifically wrong predictions about this virus and what's going to happen. Bill Gates has wondered, according to Bloomberg, whether the FDA can be trusted on a COVID vaccine right now. Oh, okay. So it was wear a mask because the CDC says so. Well, it still is that, right? Wear a mask because the CDC says so. The vaccine, though, I can't agree that it's safe, they'll tell you, because the FDA can't be trusted under Trump. Why should we trust the CDC on masks, but not the FDA on vaccines? I mean, can they just be consistent? But, Bill Gates and the whole lib intelligentsia and the media, they're going to be wondering about this particular vaccine safety right until about November 4th. Then suddenly it will be safe and mandatory, I bet, if Biden wins. Don't you see? That's part of the whole Biden miracle. Biden wins, and then, now we've really had the time to see that this vaccine is really going to work. And then they also have a justification for a mass inoculation, mandatory inoculation program that Biden will take credit for, and that will be also the excuse for finally letting us go back to normal life. And it will be timed perfectly with the Biden-Harris campaign's political needs. That's what we're facing right now. Let's all be honest about that. That's what's going on right now. All right, there's no other reason to explain the sudden concerns that the FDA has about all this. There's no other reason that the people have about the FDA. There's no other reason for this. And it's becoming more and more clear. Cal Cunningham, who's down in running in North Carolina against Tom Tillis. They had a Senate debate last night in North Carolina, and he told 10 million North Carolinians that he's not going to take an FDA-approved COVID vaccine. That's what he said last night. No, he's not going to take it. Now, look, not because he thinks vaccines in general are problematic for the immune system or that vaccines have heavy metals in them or all these other things that you hear. And look, some people in this audience, I disagree. I think vaccines have saved a whole lot of lives, and I think the numbers back that up. But you can direct your angry emails about that to producer Mark. This is not opposition to the vaccine because of concerns about... This is opposition to the vaccine because they don't want people to think that we've beaten COVID before they cast their votes in this presidential election. That's it. That's it. So after posturing as the pro-science party for 7 months of COVID, Democrats are about to wage the most dishonest anti-vax campaign imaginable, even though it will directly cost some American lives. Because there are very at-risk elderly people who, it is for those individuals getting a flu vaccine, even though it's hit and miss, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's considered, in the grand scheme of things, good medicine for senior citizens to get flu vaccines. For those people to not get the vaccine because of the Democrat scare campaign here is all really just because they place beating Orange Man bad over the health of the American people. Nothing else is allowed to matter. Anything that gets in the way of that must be destroyed because the libs have gone full psycho here. They don't care about your health. They don't care about... That's all just pablum. All just talking points so that you say, oh, okay, maybe Biden's not such a bad guy.
But we have to do much more. And when the president says all they have to do is rake the leaves and ignore the climate challenge that we face, it's really quite sad. And I understand that he had an anti-science rally, is what the press reported. It was an anti-science rally in Nevada. So you see the the challenge is a clear one. But I don't have any complaint about any of the cooperation that is being received from the national level to our state in California. I can't speak for the other states.
That's right. Listen to Chief Scientist Nancy Pelosi.
It was an anti-science rally. Anti-science rally.
Oh my gosh. They're gonna cling to this mask mania for as long as they can. It's the only thing they've got left because they abandoned social distancing with the protests. So they know they're gonna get clobbered on that. They can try to lie to people, gaslight us, but at the end of the day, they abandoned social distancing for BLM, which, as we now know, beyond any doubt, is a destructive, dangerous, and ultimately really pointless movement, unless you think the point of it was to get Democrats elected and to hurt Trump and all that. Then I guess it served some purpose, and to allow people to express their resentment and rage through a political prism or in the name of a political ideology, and that means smashed windows, stolen merchandise, looted businesses, burned out buildings. Sure, BLM did all of those things. But Trump held a rally in Nevada. I think Trump should hold more of these rallies. I think the Democrats are worried that he's running up the scoreboard, and they don't want to see that. They don't think that that's acceptable. They want to do anything they can to undermine him at this stage. And you have, in my mind at least, a Democrat Party that is desperately clinging to this notion of the pro-science party, that anyone who just gives it a few moments honest attention will come back and say, hold on a second. You mean the party that believes men can get pregnant, there are 37 genders, that there is somehow no difference between men and women, except sexism is very real, that gender transition can occur before someone even hits puberty. I mean, you believe that, and that a fetus is not a baby, and that party. Oh, and that the Mother Earth gets angry and spews fire all over the forests in California, and that's why that's happening. That party wants to lecture us all on science. You know, I worked out yesterday in the gym, and for at least a period of time, because there was another gentleman in the gym, I had to have my mask on. So I'm doing deadlifts and like a little old lady, because I've had so much muscle atrophy over the last 7 months, but I'm doing my deadlifts. And I got my mask on, and I'm breathing really hard. And all I'm thinking is, how does anyone think that the air, I'm spewing this stuff out, the air is just going above and below the mask. Just I'm breathing really hard. I'm shooting it all over. The mask is not stopping my air particles from flying all over. It's not doing it. But doesn't matter, right? This is what the science tells us. Now, the science keeps changing, but they're sure about it. They're sure about it. And then there's, let's hear from the Libs' other chief scientist, Don Lemon. That's a terrifying thought. Play 9.
Shame on the president for leading these people into this situation, but they're adults. Why are they doing this? Adults who should know better. Science, facts. Good things are happening, he says. Good things are happening? Well, not with the pandemic, but you wouldn't know it from that crowd. Not with the pandemic or the wildfires or the hurricane, but the president doesn't want to talk about any of that. He is willing to risk the safety of his own supporters, as I just showed you, just for the picture of a packed crowd indoors, so he can pretend everything is back to normal. Are you the mark? Are you being used? Hey, come in. Really? Are you willing to put your lives in danger? Okay, that may be okay, fine, you want to do that. But what about other people's lives? What about the vulnerable in society, in your family, that you're going to come into contact with? But think about someone other than yourself.
Now it's all about the Libs want us to be thinking about other people. They want you to be thinking about other people. But they don't want you taking a vaccine, even if the FDA says it's safe. But they want you to listen to the experts, but only when it comes to CDC saying wear a mask. Even though the CDC has changed its mask guidance so many times, I can't even keep it all straight. They want you to pretend that by wearing a mask when you enter a restaurant and then taking it off when you sit down at the restaurant, you're believing the science. They want you to believe that it's necessary for me in a gym that's probably, 1,500 square feet by myself to wear a mask while I'm on a treadmill because that's protecting people. This is idiocy. It's not science. It just, you apply facts, reason, and logic to this and realize that it's scaremongering, it's lunacy, it's absurd. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be as well read as Nancy Pelosi and Don Lemon, and you can figure this stuff out. And then there's the other ways in which they're deeply anti-science. And then there's the other ways in which they've got problems. For one thing, I mean, the Green New Deal is really just a crazy religious belief for libs. Mike Pence has called this out. Play 13.
Joe Biden wants to bury our economy under an avalanche of red tape, like his own version of the Green New Deal. You know, the only thing green about the Green New Deal is how much green it's going to cost all of us if they ever sign it into law.
It's true. It's true. But they think that they have the answers for the climate. They think they have the answers for California. You know what the truth is about California? Fascinating. This guy Blomberg, who is from Denmark, Copenhagen, part of the Copenhagen Consensus. I think he runs it. This guy had an editorial in the New York Post laying out some of the points that I've been saying to you. The one thing that I will be honest with you. So here's what I knew before I read this, just from doing very basic research. 2 degrees. Maybe close to 3. 2 degrees warmer in California, and they're telling you that's about over the last 30, 40 years, and they're saying that's why the wildfires are so much worse. Okay, be in a room that goes from 68 to 70 degrees, and tell me if you think that that's going to cause that much of an atmospheric difference, that there are massive conflagrations that occur. Okay, put that aside for a second. I mean, look, just think this through. You don't have to be, just think it through. And then also on the issue of how these are the worst fires ever. The wets are wet, the hots are hotter, the fires are burning more, the hurricanes, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? Okay, let's think about it. Let's think about that, shall we, for just a moment. This guy Blomberg points out that there were much bigger fires seasonally that would burn in California in the 1800s. That it wasn't until they started to apply some forestry management to these areas of California that you would have much larger areas that would burn, much larger year in, year out. And that the single biggest issue here is that there has not been forestry management applied to this, so that there's a tremendous amount. There's years and years worth of kindling undergrowth that builds up, which means that when it goes, the fire burns much hotter, much stronger, spreads much faster than it did in the past. But that's because we have changed the way we deal with forests. But it used to be that there would be every year, there'd be big fires back in the 1800s in California, big fires that would burn a whole lot more, much more than what is currently being burned. And now, because we have firefighting that we do, but not a lot of forestry management, yeah, it doesn't burn quite as far, but we keep running into this problem because of all the undergrowth. So it's managing the forest. But even just put that aside for a moment, because libs will argue about that. Let's go to the climate change thing here. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, and Eric, I think his name is Eric, Mayor Garcetti of Los Angeles, they take the position that if we want this to stop, we need to lead the world on climate. And if you think that a climate agreement that might get signed that would make Gavin Newsom happy in the next 5 or 10 years is going to do a damn thing about forest fires in California, you're a moron. But Gavin Newsom knows that he's talking to people who it's not rational. They've been trained to believe this. Does anyone really think that California changing its CO2 output, that's the thing. You know, if they've got more solar panels in California, if they have less CO2 emissions in California, that's going to change the climate in a way that would affect these forest fires? That is a lunacy. And you know it. Just think it through. It's a clear lunacy. But that's what they're pushing for you. That's what this is what the party of science wants you to know. This is what the party of science. They're not about science. They're not about knowledge. They're about emotion and coercion and power. And all this other stuff with the environment is just, they've replaced God with Mother Earth. It's pathetic. It's regressive, but that's what they've done.
If we look over the last 4 decades, what we see is just a steady decrease in the snowpack, a steady warming of the ocean off the coast, a steady increase in how dry the forests are and how long that period is. And it just sets all the conditions for these fires. The president, I know, visited California and said he just thinks, things will just get better on their own. This is willful ignorance. This is putting your hands over your eyes and your ears, saying, I see no climate change, I hear no climate change, there is no climate change, everything will get better. Wishful ignorance. It has resulted on the pandemic front of within a week, we'll have 200,000 Americans who have died. And what we're seeing in the West is just a steady scorching of our forests and now the incineration of our towns.
I mean, what do they think that California is going to... let's assume that this guy's right on the science here. That's Senator Merkley. What is the state of California supposed to do about this exactly? Or let's say that all the Republicans, because we're the big, bad, evil people that don't care about everything burning down, what are we supposed to do to stop this from happening? Oh, stop global CO2 emissions. Does anyone say this out loud and not hear how moronic that is? The only way to stop the fires in California is to limit global CO2 emissions. Not going to happen, folks. It's not going to happen. And as I've already told you, there are a lot of other reasons why these fires are what they are. And if they really wanted to deal with this, they would have to do controlled fires. But controlled fires come with some risk. They're never entirely controlled. They also burn a lot of stuff that people get upset about. Environmentalists get upset. Oh, you're burning the trees. I don't want to do that. So Mother Nature comes in and just does it. That's what ends up happening. But, friends, Trump is anti-science, Trump is anti-women, Trump is a racist, Trump is a traitor, all the things we've heard before. That's what you're going to be treated to this time around. Also that we can vote for Joe Biden, who we all recognize is a doddering old buffoon, but nonetheless, they want you to think that he's going to make everything so much better. So much better. That's the plan. Oh, and they want to blame Trump supporters for all... Trump supporters are somehow the reason for everything. We're the reason for the pandemic. We're the reason for climate change. We're the reason for all of these things. They keep wanting to tell us what to do based on their idiotic ideas and also somehow think that we're the reason that all these things are happening. Isn't that fascinating? Here's Joy Ann Reid. Still hasn't found the hateful bigots who hacked into her blog from 10 years ago to make her a homophobe. She said the FBI was investigating. We still haven't found those people that hacked into her blog, in quotes. Yeah, sure. Here she is, place 7.
I mean, a lot of people have been giving up stuff, giving up parties with their families, birthday parties with their grandparents and for their kids, funerals. People have been skipping funerals. People have been making tremendous sacrifices to try to end this nightmare. And Trump fans are taking the opportunity to fly to other states, drive to other states, go attend a mask-free rally. We're looking here, the crowds were not wearing masks in front of Trump. They festooned some behind him so that they'd be on camera looking like they were doing the right thing. But the ones in the crowd weren't. Those people are going to be in the Walmart with people who didn't choose to be, completely irresponsible. This strikes me as the reason we can't get past this, because there are some people, it's not just Trump, it's other people who are deciding to take risks with the rest of our lives.
Just so much stupidity in one soundbite. It's amazing, isn't it? Was she so critical of all the BLM protests, which, yeah, some of them were masks. They weren't social distancing, and a lot of them weren't wearing masks. Did she take the time to say that we had lost the right to have funerals and birthday parties and graduations But BLM was having their massive protest for weeks and weeks on the street so they could talk about how much they hate cops and how the white oppressor is destroying America as per critical race theory. Did she have a problem with any of that? No, but she's got a problem with Trump holding rallies where not everybody is wearing a mask. They mask shame selectively and wonder why we don't take this more seriously. Other countries that have decided that masking, have recognized that masking is not some huge weapon against this virus, we don't want to hear from them. We don't want to listen to that. We've decided that this is now it. You mask or you're a bad person, and this is absurd, but this is where we are. This is what they will say to you. Oh, speaking of absurdity, here's Bro Cuomo on the BLM shooting over the weekend. Need to hear this. Play 8.
The extent of what we know, that's it. I just showed it to you. Anyone who says they know why this happened is pushing an agenda, because we don't know anything other than what you just saw. And there are a lot of crazy people. I know we don't like that word with mental health awareness, and I'm all about that. But you know what? That guy either has a bad mind, a bad soul, or a bad brain, or a combination of all of them.
Yeah, let's not jump to conclusions that the guy that killed 2 police officers in South Central Los Angeles, that tried to kill 2 sheriff's deputies in South Central Los Angeles over the weekend, let's not jump to conclusions and think that maybe the constant drumbeat in the media of cops are murdering black men constantly, let's not assume that had anything to do with this. Or I should say, let's not analyze the situation and come to that preemptive conclusion subject to repudiation by the facts as they additionally come in. Right, sure. This is just like what they do with jihadist terrorism. We may never know the motive. The guy's running around yelling Allahu Akbar with a suicide vest on, saying he's doing this for ISIS, but we may never know the real motive. And with this guy, let's not jump to conclusions. Let's wait until there are other things in the news cycle and people forget that there were also BLM protesters on video blocking ambulance access for these deputies as they were trying to fight for their lives. Let's pretend like let's not connect any of the dots. That's right. Cuomo, for his audience's benefit, will pretend to be a moron because it makes the audience feel, we don't know what happened here. Yeah, you never really know when you're talking about a motive. You make the best guess you can with the facts as presented. And this one seems pretty clear.